Hello everyone, my name is recon and welcome back to Helldivers, where I am going to be starting a new mini-series of Helldivers where I explain and almost educate about some different things you can do in the game. Now, this little series will be starting off and will be completely surrounding the idea of different factions within Helldivers. Not enemy factions, Helldiver factions, and I'll explain it in just a second. Alright, the first interior Helldivers faction that I'll be talking about is the S.E.A.R.C.H Helldivers. Sample extraction and retrieval core Helldivers. This faction focuses around getting the super samples specifically and any other things such as super credits, requisition slips, medals, or common and rare samples back to the extraction zone. Now, to effectively do this, you're gonna want some of these following things. First, we're going to go over armor choices. You can get away with doing a medium armor, but light armor is mostly suggested because you have the most stamina, speed, and stamina regen. If you want, you can do something with just a tad bit more, like if you're going to do a medkit kind of passive, but I recommend the servo assisted because you can keep things further at bay with throwing your stratagems, but also keeping your limbs nice and tight with the 50% extra limb health, so it is actually really nice. My next personal choice would actually be the Desert Stormer armor passive because it gives you a 40% resistance to mostly, if not all kinds of damage, and you also get that increased throwing range by 20%, so it is actually really nice and a really good choice. Next up, weapon choice. You want to have survivability, but you also want to have maneuverability. So I would recommend a very strong primary. I'm going to be going with the AR-2 Coyote, followed with the Ultimatum Nuclear Pistol, and the Pyrotech Grenades, because you get 6 of these as opposed to 4. I think this is also 4, maybe 6, but Thermite has 3, and I cannot survive on 3. Now, first order of business in any mission that you get into or drop in on, even if you're jumping into a server or a match that isn't made by you, your first priority is finding samples, getting the POIs, and most importantly, a LiDAR station. Those spawn in on level 2 or harder. Now, stratagem choice is another really important thing. You need to have survivability and mobility as previously stated. So I go with the napalm, a eagle of some kind. I typically go with the airstrike or the cluster bomb. We'll go with airstrike for this time, and we'll be doing the jump pack, and for the sake of example, I'll be giving the full kind of tutorial where you have the jump pack and the fast recon vehicle, and your booster of choice is going to have to be the stamina, or if you have it, the boosted stims, because they not only make you run faster, but they also replenish your stamina more, if my knowledge is correct. I'm off. I am now grabbing samples, I'm going to POIs, I'm getting everything that I can around the map. And now that I have the fast recon vehicle, it makes it significantly easier to go from POI to POI. Being a search diver in Helldivers is really quite simple, but also kind of difficult. Some of the things that you have to worry about is a bug breach that gets spawned on you randomly from a patrolling squad of bugs, or a dropship call by the automatons, or reinforcements by the Illuminate. So that's where you're going to have some kind of combat experience dealing with each faction to really dial in your stratagem choices. Now, since I primarily and mostly only play on the bugs, I know just about how to deal with every encounter that I'll run into. Bug breach, you just throw down a napalm on it and then you fight your way through. Bots, you can shoot down the dropships. Illuminate, I haven't played too much into them, but I know that the napalm and a stalwart or a turret of some kind is the way to go for it. Another benefit of doing search diving is you get to determine how much or how little you can focus. You can focus on just getting super samples. You can get absolutely everything and anything, like a loot goblin. Or, if you drop in without a support weapon, you can easily find one by going into these little areas. See, there's an anti-material rifle and a requisition slip. So it is a very fast and very easy way to get progress with war bonds by getting super credits, or upgrading your super destroyer by getting every and any last sample that you can get on a mission. Another thing to note about search diving is that most people already know what search diving is. You will almost never have or run into any kind of problem with anybody with you being a search diver. As long as you're not dying too much and you're actually doing what you set out to do. Another thing to point out is that your fast recon vehicle or your jump pack is going to be your it's going to be your baby. You're going to have to protect it because it is a pretty large cooldown for the recon vehicle. I think it's like 5 minutes. So if you get it and immediately lose it, that is pretty unfortunate. But it does not hinder your capabilities of search diving because you still have the jump pack. If you die, you're going to want to get that back. Alright. This is where your stratagems come into play. You're search diving, you're by yourself, you don't have a whole lot of help from your teammates, so you have to be able to protect yourself. This is where the napalms come in. You can also do the 120 or the 380mm barrage, but I prefer the napalm because of the long-lasting, lingering fire damage. Just be careful not to get too close to the flames. Now, also keep in mind that there are samples to be found at or around enemy bug nests or enemy automaton bases, so you're going to have to go in there and get those samples if you're a true search diver. On the harder difficulties with bigger and more vast enemy bug nests, for example, the samples don't always spawn in or immediately around the inside of the bug nest. Some of them, Stalker's Nests or Stalker's Lairs, and the large or heavy nests, for example, have outside the perimeter secret rare samples I've seen, and sometimes even some common samples. So if you want to get every last sample that you can, you're going to have to search the inside, outside, and the perimeter of said bug nests. One friendly tip from me to everyone watching: the diameter of each barrage is just a little bit different. The 380 and the 120 barrage has a safety perimeter of 50 meters and more. If you're at 50, you can still be hit and still be killed by your own barrage. The napalm barrage has a safety perimeter of 40 meters. So as long as you're over 40, you won't be killed by your own barrage. Nothing to it. Also, a little point of reference: there is no parking brake on your fast recon vehicle. So if you leave it sitting on an incline or decline, it will move away from you. So be sure to try and have it close to you on flat ground or parked in a way that it'll be lodged and won't be able to drift away from you too quickly. Now, as previously stated, this is a super good way to find and farm super credits. You can do this on any difficulty, including level 1 or trivial. If you are someone who struggles with like the difficulty of any of the difficulties, you can run a medium armor or a heavy armor. It'll just be a lot slower and you can't sprint nearly as far. But if you're using the fast recon vehicle and stim stamina and the jump pack, it really won't be an issue, but on the harder difficulties, you're definitely going to want to use a medium, if not light armor selection. On harder difficulties, where you may need to do a sieve artillery, there will be rare samples all around the entire perimeter of the sieve artillery loading areas. If you're on the easier difficulties like I am, the rare samples won't spawn, of course, but it is a good thing to keep an eye out for, as they may spawn common samples, so keep an eye out for that. Another friendly tip from Reaper, hold sprint and spam E, you'll be able to transport shells much quicker. And we're off. Another point to make, which to some may be common knowledge, to others it may not be, you have up to 40 minutes for a single mission. If you're solo search diving, you can take up all of that time and more by the time it takes to call in or call down your Pelican. So use all that time and as much time as you need, if it may be less or more, to find all your samples, all the POIs, everything that you need. You're not in any rush. Now, your teammates that you may be diving with, if not your friends, they won't leave you behind, but you do want to get a move on. You don't want to be standing around fiddling with anything, taking any unnecessary fights. So just be mindful of your teammates and be sure to not stick around in one POI for too long, unless you're doing a fight. Like with the bug breach, because they will just track you down and slow you down. Now, here is the bittersweet moment. You can't do friendship bunkers. Unfortunately, you need a piece of equipment that I just do not have, but I do know this for a fact. If you have the warp pack, you can phase through this wall, get in there, and get back out. Or you can also do it with a mech. But the trick with that one is a little risky, because if the mech moves at all, you won't be able to get back into the mech, and then everything that you're holding, your samples and your equipment, if you have it and it's not, readily accessible via another stratagem call down, you will lose it inside of that bunker. So just be mindful, be careful, and anticipate that potentially happening. One more trick. If you find this little POI where there are samples under the ground,
Extraction is available,
and you don't want to spend the time using that piece of crap to get it, just lay prone or crouch, and you can collect them through the ground. Congratulations, you found all the samples that you could find, wanted to, or needed to find. Now, what you're gonna do, I just called in the extraction just because. Now what you would do is, if you had done all the searching that you needed to, you would leave your samples by holding X on the keyboard. I don't know what the controls are for a controller, but you would leave your samples at the extraction site, specifically and most importantly the super samples. If you find them early on and you're near the extraction point, you have the alien specimen backpack or the mega nest egg sample, you want to bring those back to the extraction point, leave them here, and then continue with the mission. Then, once you're all done with the mission, you can come back, grab your samples, put on that specimen backpack, pick up the egg, and wait patiently or impatiently for Pelican 1 to arrive to your extraction zone. And you're off.
Liberty has seen you through.
Easy as pie. And now, as a little example, I'll be showing what it's like to do search diving on one of the hardest difficulties that you can do.
Requesting tac pack. Freedom requires
Objective completed.
Awesome.
Requesting advanced weaponry.
Danger. Sending in an eagle.
Fog outpost!
Orbital inbound.
Orbital barrage incoming. Stand clear.
Alright, safety perimeter of 40 meters or more.
To the sky. Rare sample acquired.
Alright, this is one of the ones I was explaining about samples being on the outside perimeter of a nest. The ones that spawn the big bile titans
Rare sample acquired.
have 1 to 2 rare samples on the back. So be sure to go check those, or check for those on the back side if you ever run into one of these. Because it's an extra 2 to 4 that you can get if you have the booster for it for extra samples.
Terminate out.
Give me your mouth. Such your mouth, not your arm, you ding dong. Alright, something quite unfortunate just happened. I was over with L1 and I died, and I was called over here across the map. It's unfortunate, but it happens. Hopefully L1 just picks up my samples and we can go from there.
Tagging location south.
It sucks, but it's part of it. They didn't know.
Last reel.
Orbital inbound.
Bug hive spotted.
Package acquired. Dropping package.
Last reload.
Main objective nearby.
Now, you may be a search diver, and I may be one too, but we do not leave Helldivers to die. So if your teammate's in a firefight right next to you, yeah, join them.
Not today.
Okay.
Another one bites the dust.
Ba-na-na-ba-ba,
Requesting sentry.
ba-na.
Calling down a sentry.
Activating jump pack. Feels good. To the sky.
Tagging map. Northeast, 300 meters.
Alright, they already cleared out the samples at the stalker layer, but I wonder if they got the ones around the back. They did. Look at them. On top of it. Ooh, but they forgot this one. Oh, and this one. Ooh.
Sample
Requesting sentry.
Yeah, buddy.
Requesting tech.
Danger. West.
I think it just broke the other one. God damn it. Also, earlier, what I mentioned, stim stamina, it's when you fully deplete your stamina bar and then you uh, jab another stim in so you can get a fully replenished stamina. You can also pair this with jetpack stamina, and what I mean by that is if you stop sprinting right when you use your jetpack, you can start to regen right as you land, so you get just a little bit extra.
Preparing for touchdown.
It's not a lot, but every step counts, especially when you're running to the shuttle and your teammates are already going in direction.
Stand by for takeoff.
Just like that.
Reinforcement budget depleted.
Easy as cake. Another really good combo is if someone on the team that you're about to drop in with already has the stamina booster, and you have the chance booster for finding extra samples. It's like a 15%. It's not like too crazy, but when you do get those bonuses, those extra 3, 4, 5 rare samples that you can get from a mission, or even 1 or 2 extra super samples in each mission, goes a long way. I mean, look at how many samples we got. 77? Yeah, that's just from 1 mission with these guys. And we all got 77 samples from it. Search diving is definitely a good thing to do.
Reminder, all personnel must submit weekly.
Alright everybody, that was my little tutorial video, if you want to call it like that, or a tip video for being a search diver in Helldivers 2. If you want to see more, be sure to like, comment, share with a friend, click that box for a video that I've already done, click the other box for a playlist on the channel. Stay tuned for my personal little tip video on the other 3 factions, the Shadow, the Heat, and the Safe divers. So be on the lookout for those, and I'll see you in the next one.